Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of my Book It podcast. My name is Rob Howden, the voice of the Road to Indy presented by Cooper Tires, and also the voice of a lot of karting events throughout the country each year. And that kind of is what gives me a very unique aspect when I'm talking about drivers who are working their way up through the ranks, whether it be into karting, into the Road to Indy, up into the IndyCar ranks, or of course, the reason for this Book It podcast, drivers that maybe not in that Road to Indy wheelhouse as of yet. Had a chance to talk to Matt Clark a couple of days ago, the Toyota Tires F1600 champion from Ontario. We obviously had Bryce Aaron on yesterday, Team USA scholarship driver today, Jackson Lee, the other driver that was involved in both the Formula Ford Festival and as well the Walter Hayes Trophy over in UK at Brands Hatch and Silverstone. This Book It podcast, I'll be going outside a little bit. We'll be talking to some media members. We'll talk to some drivers from the IndyCar program, maybe those in F4, Formula Regional Americas, in the F1600, F2000. We're just going to spread things around, especially a lot of the American drivers that are running over in Europe as well. I've reached out to talk to both Kalen Frederick. We're going to talk to Grant Palmer. We're going to talk to Carter Williams, try to maybe lock down Logan Sargent as well. Drivers that maybe don't get a lot of exposure over here in the United States and North America. They're, of course, running over there in high-level programs. Kalen Frederick, of course, just winning the British Formula 3 Series. These are drivers that are going to be perfect in the wheelhouse for my Book It podcast. So I appreciate you tuning in here right now. Let's bring today's guest in here, though. This is Jackson Lee. We wrap things up right now. Jackson, how are you?
Doing good. Thanks for having me. How are you doing?
Yeah, really, really good. Super busy, but I appreciate you coming on. This is kind of our second end of the Team USA scholarship program. We had Bryce Aaron on yesterday. We have you on here today, obviously talking about what I think was probably a pretty damn cool experience for you. You know, you ran with Rice Race Prep in the F1600 Championship Series, winning some races, battling it out with your teammate Simon Sykes. But you get this opportunity to be part of Team USA in the 30th year of this program. And you look at the names, Jimmy Vasser, Brian Herta, AJ Allmendinger, Joseph Newgarden, Dane Cameron. You can go through the list of drivers who have been part of Team USA. We had you guys on before the races. We got you on now to kind of talk about the events themselves. Let's just overall your time with Team USA. Give us just a little feeling of the emotion of wearing the red, white, and blue over in Europe.
Well, I'll tell you what. When I first got into the program, I knew that it was going to be very difficult to go over and race against some of the best competition in the world.
Yep.
And to be able to, but when I actually got over there and saw how many cars there were and how talented all the drivers were at the front, it was a shock of just, oh, what have I gotten myself into? But
wow.
It was still an amazing experience. And I had many of those moments. It wasn't until I actually got over to England that I realized how big this was. Because when I first heard about it, I had to figure out how to get over there. I had to get my passport set up. I had to get all that going. So it was kind of go into business mode. All right, what do I need to do to make this happen? And then I got over there and I got in the quarantine required. And I got to slow down and kind of realize just what this means to be a part of the Team USA scholarship. It's a huge honor. And as you mentioned earlier, the names behind the program are just, there are a lot of drivers who have really made this into a big opportunity for them and taken this to the top level.
And it's obviously about the experience, right? If you win the race, whatever, there's no scholarships there to move you along. This is all about the experience. And this is what Jeremy Shaw did. That was the focus when he put together the Team USA scholarship. Let's grab a couple of young Americans, give them an experience that they've never had before and kind of raise their game up a little bit. You mentioned quarantine. Let's start with that. So you end up going over there. Instead of diving right in with your team, you got to go into quarantine for 2 weeks. Was that a good thing? Did it allow you to settle your nerves a little bit before you went racing? What were your thoughts on having to kind of hang out in an apartment or wherever your hotel, wherever you were for 2 weeks?
I think the best way to describe the quarantine was a whole lot of nothing. It gave me a good opportunity to kind of catch up on my school, or not catch up, but get ahead on my school and make sure I'm all set and ready to go before I actually get into the racing. But I was at a hotel near where Cliff and Michelle Dempsey, who were taking care of me, it was near where they were living. So it made things easier, and I wasn't too distanced from the team as far as, you know, I got to have dinner with them every once in a while, but it was really just sitting around doing nothing. But,
yeah, right. Waiting.
Yeah, it made it much more worth it once I got down to actually getting into the car and getting going.
So let's talk about that. You're out of quarantine. You're into the car. You guys, one of the things was cool for this year. You actually ran. Well, obviously Bryce Aaron was there the entire year, so really it was him just putting different livery on the car to a certain extent. But you got a chance to do I don't want to say a practice race, but you did another round of one of the series beforehand to kind of get yourself settled in before going to the festival.
Yep, the final round in the F1600 National Championship over in England, and that was a good experience just to kind of get my toes in the water and get an idea of what I'm really getting into. And that was kind of my first idea of how tough the competition was going to be. I think I only got one real practice session. I got one dry session, and the next session it was raining pretty heavily. And after about 4 or 5 laps, somebody had an accident and spilled a bunch of oil on the track, and that ended that session. So very limited track time for that. And then going into the races for that was quite an experience. But
let's lay the overall theme down for you, Jackson. One of the crazy things was here you go over there, and you're going to get used to the car, whatever it may be, the tires. We'll talk about that later as well. But man, English weather came and attacked you. You guys essentially had wet weather racing the entire time you were there. And that's not something you had a lot of experience in, hardly any, right?
Yeah, I've done maybe 4 or 5 test sessions in the wet before I came over there. So having that as an extra aspect of just trying to learn as much as I can, it was quite a curveball. But to the Low Dempsey Racing and everyone over there, they did a great job at helping me out and getting me acclimatized to the new conditions. And really, my rein technique, I guess you could call it, in the past was just slow down because there's less grip. But yeah, this was a great opportunity to kind of learn an actual driving technique, so that when it does rain over here, I should be much better. So that was a great opportunity.
Oh, I love that. That's great. All right. Yeah. And I asked this question to Bryce. Let's ask it to you as well. Sparco sends over the suits, everything when you get there. What did it mean to you? You're pulling things out. You see the Team USA suit for the first time. How was that?
That was another one of those moments where I had finally slowed down from getting ready to get over here, and I get the suit. And I see the Team USA logos and all of the partners involved with it. And I just think to myself, what would 8-year-old Jackson think if he saw this is where my racing career would turn out?
Right.
It was quite an experience, but it's just really cool what Team USA does for drivers like me to be able to send me over to another country and get me out of my comfort zone, but be able to teach me a lot and be able to get me a lot of great exposure from this as well.
Yeah, I think exposure is number one, experience number two. You talked about the level of talent, the drivers that are running in the F1600 program there. You got guys that, national champions, Ford Festival champions, race winners, Hayes winners, and you're battling with these guys. It's such close racing. Let's jump into it. Let's talk about the Formula Ford Festival first. Tell me first off where you qualified. Let's go into the heat race after that. How'd your qualifying go for the festival?
Qualifying, I think that was one of our actual dry sessions, one of the few dry sessions we got, and I was able to qualify 4th in my group. Which that was I was still kind of learning at the time, trying to figure out Brands Hatch, figure out the car. But 4th place was, with as many sessions as you get, 4th place was enough to be able to work with. So
yeah, you can start from there, right?
Yep. Heat race comes, and we're back in the rain, of course. And I had my lack of rain experience showed in this one. I definitely so on the start, I couldn't really get the tires to hook on the actual start. So I had fallen back a few spots. But
hey, that's a question first. Standing starts over there, correct?
Yes, and this was also my first experience with standing starts. So that plus the wet, it was quite a journey. But
yeah, right.
Struggled a little bit at first, but I was able to work my way up and grab a few positions back, and ended up finishing on the podium for that one, which was really cool.
So did they do podium? I've actually never been to the festival, so I got to take this from you. Do they actually do podiums at that point?
They do. They had like the Formula One style. You pull into your spot depending on where you finished, and they did an interview after that. But
this one here,
that one right there. It was
Sky on TV. I dig
it. Yep, yeah. But the festival it was a very professionally run event. They all do a great job over there. So. It was kind of cool to be able to show some good results early and be able to be a part of that.
I was going to say, you get on the podium in the heat race. Did it calm you down a little bit? Did it give you a little, maybe the confidence you needed going into the weekend?
Well, I knew I was going to have to really keep my game up if I wanted to do well, because the heat races, they're split up, so it's not everybody. But as the teams were telling me, there are no easy heat races. So
yeah,
still podium was still great, but I had to really keep the momentum going if I wanted to finish well. So I guess it didn't really change my mindset too much, but it was nice to really get a good starting spot for the semifinal.
Yeah.
And it was nice to kind of get that momentum built up.
Well, if you look back, I'm sure you did a little bit at some of the history of Team USA. There's been guys that have had trouble in that heat race, right? You start well back in the semi and you got to battle yourself back up. So you being P3, it gets things in the momentum going in the right direction. How did things go in the semi before you get to the grand final?
Semifinal start was a similar situation. I think I had gone too much RPMs and got too much wheel spin in the first one. And then the next one, I'm not getting enough and just bogged down. But that definitely needed a little bit of work, but
that's all right.
Still not a bad semifinal. I had made it through to the final without having to go to any last chance qualifiers, and that was really our main goal, just to avoid races like that, because those are just you don't want anything to go wrong in that.
You don't.
It's over. So
not at all.
It was good to be able to get into the final. I think I finished P8 in that one. So
yep.
It was, again, just survive in advance and get to the final. So that was kind of our mentality for that whole part of the festival.
So what about main event time? This is going to be your first main event at Brands. Of course, as I said, you guys ran the final end of the national championship at a different track at Silverstone. We'll talk about that when we end up discussing the Walter Hayes Trophy. Where did you start from? Where did things kind of slot in after that? Where did you start from and where did you get to? And tell us a little bit about how the final went.
I started P16, and this one wasn't as wet as the last few, but it was definitely still wet, and the conditions were drying. So I was a little more comfortable, and also just with the experience of being able to run all week, I was getting more comfortable, and everything was kind of building up to that final. So started P16th, as I said, and I was able to continue to work my way up, and I ended up P10. So I think just the experience of being able to work my way through that field, through those drivers, and being able to learn how to create passes and learn how to race against guys who drive as aggressively as they do.
Yeah.
I think that was just a really great learning experience. And I think it's really going to show once I start racing again here in the U.S.
Let's talk about that before we go on to the Walter Hayes Trophy. Bryce Aaron, your teammate, has been there all year. He's been racing against these guys. So he has a feel for the racecraft, for the way they race, right? The way to approach passes and defending, whatever it may be. You ran in the F1600 Championship Series. How would you compare the difference in aggression, driving styles, tactics? How much different is it between what we have here in the U.S. and what you encountered over there in the U.K.?
There are definitely some talented drivers here in the U.S. in the F1600 series, but there's just more of them over in Europe, and they've been doing it for a while. They've got the experience. They've got kind of the mental aspect of how they need to win, rather than on top of the just sheer pace they have. But with that, they all just have this mindset of they're doing whatever it takes to win, and they're driving very aggressively, and they're not giving you an inch on the track at all. So I think it kind of brought me back to my short track roots of just driving aggressively and really having to drive with your elbows out. So that
nice.
It's definitely, I can see why Jeremy Shaw sends people over to race against these guys, because they're very talented drivers, and it really teaches you a lot on how to really develop your racecraft. Well,
it sounds what you're talking about already, and the fact that you feel like you're going to be a better driver when you get rolling again in 2021, which I think is fantastic. You press the reset button after the festival. You get to go do it again at another one of the most famous Formula Ford races in the world, of course, in the UK, the Walter Hayes Trophy. There's so many different cars there, eras of cars racing, 104, I think, in total for the Hayes this year. Give me your thoughts getting to Silverstone. How did things come out of the trailer now that you've had some experience? Did you feel more comfortable getting through the early parts of the weekend?
Yeah, and I think it definitely showed in the first practice out at Silverstone that I was more comfortable with the car. I felt quicker and just like I was able to really focus down on learning the track rather than learning the car and the new conditions and all that. So I feel like just out of the box, I was just in a better position than for the festival. So I think it was a good opportunity to really kind of build up on what I had learned and really see if we can put some results down.
We'll jump in a second to your results, but hearing you say this, right? You're out there. You got guys that have been racing these races for 5-10 years. Some of the names, Ross Martin, Joey Foster, so many great drivers. They know these racetracks. Wouldn't you like to go back next year Having known the racetracks already?
Yeah, well, the events were it was an amazing experience, and it was so cool to be able to race in events of this caliber. So being able to go over there and do it a second time, I think would be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's going to be able to happen, but
I'm just saying, it
would be really cool to be able to do it again and kind of see how much I've built on.
That's it, right?
Year. Yeah, that'd be really cool.
Completely. Okay, so talk about your heat race. It's the same. This is kind of the way they do it. There's so many cars. You run a heat race, you go into the semifinal, then you run the final. The idea is to heat race, get a good starting spot for the semifinal, and then in the semifinal, do what you can not to get in a wreck in that, so you get a good starting position. What happened in the heat race for you? First of all, where did you qualify?
Qualified. So in qualifying, I had the provisional pole for a while, but I caught some traffic and wasn't able to build on my time. So qualified P4. But I had shown that I had the pace and that I could really compete. So went out in the heat race, started P4, and I again just the theme of my racing is just the starts. I got to work on the starts. But, fell back a few spots on the start, but again was able to work my way back up to fourth. So again, the whole idea of the heats and the semis, just survive in advance and move on. So the heat for the Walter Hayes Trophy, the last chance qualifiers, and then they also had a progressional race, I think is what they called it.
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah,
to get into the semifinal, depending on where you finished in your heat. So I was really glad to skip those again, and just move on. So I think again, that's kind of, as I said, what those races are about, is just getting to the next race and get yourself a good starting spot.
So fourth rather in the heat, you end up 10th in the semi. Everything's been great so far. Let's talk about what happens in the main event. Obviously not what you were looking for. Give us your call from in the car. What happened in the main event?
Yeah, I didn't have the best starting spot. Just with how many cars there are at the P10 and the semi, moved me back to P20 starting in the final. But I was talking to my uncle, he raced sprint cars growing up. I was talking to him on the phone, and I was saying, yeah, I've got a little bit of work to do. And he said, no, you don't. You've got a little bit of fun to have, because passing cars is fun. It's not work. So
I love that.
I was looking forward to be able to work my way through the field, and I had started moving up a little bit, but unfortunately a car had spun in front of me, and just how the conditions were, I really didn't have anywhere to go. So it was an unfortunate end, but I think I can't let that overshadow the entire experience. It was
exactly that.
Just amazing, the amount I had learned, and just I'll remember this experience forever. So I can't thank Jeremy Shaw and Team USA and Low Dempsey Racing, everyone behind the program, enough for this just incredible opportunity.
Jackson, we talk a lot about this throughout the years. I've been doing this for a long time, and I've been following the Team USA scholarship. I'll take this time and I'll let you kind of add something to it. Just talking about Cliff and Michelle Dempsey as well. That they opened their home up. You come in, to be able to have these Americans year after year. They're special people for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And they really, as you said, they opened their arms and let me they helped me just be more comfortable and not have to be completely on my own. But
right.
It was definitely nice to be able to, have people they've seen other drivers go through the program and come over on their own. So they can help me out and just basically take care of me. So I was really fortunate to have them a part of this experience.
You talked about having to kind of go to work when you found out that you were going to be part of this deal. You had to go get the passport done. You had to figure out a way to get over there. You had to figure out your quarantine, how everything was going to happen. You jammed so much really in that month period. When you look back at it, how much do you think you have grown, and how much of a better race car driver are you going to be the next time you get in a car, just for those 3 weekends that you did? Well,
I'll tell you this. On the off-track stuff about racing, I feel like I've improved a lot in just my media skills. And it was after each race they would have someone with medias come up and interview afterwards, and just stuff like that is just great experience. And then on top of on-track experience, just you can't go into this and not learn anything.
Yeah, for sure.
They're so competitive, and you really have to push yourself and really push yourself to get better while you're over there. So I think again, as I've been saying, I can't wait to get back in a car back home and really see the improvements I've made.
We'll talk about that in a couple seconds. You obviously, like so many people, transferring out of karts into cars. Chris Jeffers got a question here for you. I'm going to bring this in for you. He says, what could have better prepared you for the karts to cars transition? At what age would you start prepping if you were to start over, moving from karts to cars?
So I think I was 14 when I got into a race car for the first time, and that wasn't really planned. So I had my dad, Kevin Lee, since he'd been with NBC for the IndyCar races. He had worked with Townsend Bell, and Townsend had some credits for the Skip Barber School of Racing that were going to go expired. So he was kind enough to let me jump into a race car for the first time. So I feel like it wasn't planned, but it was definitely great to be able to get in the car early. But I feel like getting into a race car for the first time, if I could have done anything differently, I mean, honestly, I was thinking about this the other day. I haven't really planned out when I first got into racing. I didn't really plan out everything to go as it did, but I'm glad it went like that, because I feel like running with the Lucas Oil School of Racing and then going into F1600 rather than moving straight into USF 2000s. I think that being able to learn in series like that has been a great opportunity. So I don't know if I would have changed much, just because you don't really know how things are going to turn out, and it happened to turn out very well. So
did you, and you said you were 14 when you first got in the Skip Barber car. Did you think, was that age, would you have waited a little bit more? Did you like the fact that you got in at 14 and maybe got a taste for it?
I certainly liked getting in at a young age, but I think I don't think that's necessarily the age. I think 16 or so, about when I really got into it. I think that's about the right age.
All right.
But I think preparation wise, I mean, I did a lot of sim work. I was able to prepare for events. So I feel like I just got lucky and chose the right time and went about it the right way.
Nice. All right. You mentioned getting back in a car. Looking forward to it. When's that happening? Let's start talking about 2021 a little bit. I know that you and I have discussed that you'd like to find your way into the road to Indy. I know you and your dad have been in a lot of conversation with team owners. Are we going to see some testing in the off season? Is USF 2000 the goal for 2021?
Yep, and it all starts next week. I will be doing a test with Jay Howard Driver Development at NOLA Motorsports Park in a USF 2000 car. So it'll be my first time in a Wings and Slicks car. So I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And the goal for this is just to learn and get comfortable with the car. And then we plan on doing another test sometime soon to really show some speed and really get ready for next season. So,
have you had a chance to pour your seat yet? Have you been to the shop? Where are you in terms of being with Jay Howard? Are you going to do that when you get down there?
Nope, all that have been taken care of already. I don't live too far from Jay's shop, so we were able to get all that taken care of and get ready to go. So all that should be ready. Should be a lot of fun.
What's the level of excitement like to get behind the wheel of the USF 17?
Oh, this has been kind of the mindset for the past few years. This is where I've wanted to end up. So to see it all finally start to come together it's really cool. I think it's going to be a lot of fun as well. So
here's a question for you. Obviously, iRacing coming out with, I believe, the USF 17 car and the Indy Pro 2000 car. Have you been doing some sim work in the USF 17 at different racetracks?
Yeah, iRacing doesn't have NOLA, but I have been going around in the USF car and just kind of working on getting used to that car. I've done a few of iRacing's actual sessions to prepare myself. And just, I enjoy sim racing. So, I mean, whatever I can do on that is always good for me.
But that's fantastic. All right, let's give you an opportunity to thank. I know that you guys have a lot of partners and people that work with you. Let me give you an opportunity to thank the people that allow you to do what you do, to be able to run the F1600 championship. Of course, I know you can talk about Jeremy and everybody involved in Team USA, but I know you guys have a lot of people behind you as well that allow you to go racing.
Yep, and Tanemic and Indiana Coding Specialist, they've already said that they're going to increase their support for my program for next season. So awesome. Really big thanks to them. And then I have longtime supporters, Caldwell Realty and Caldwell Subways, who have been a big part of my program. Big thanks to them. They've been with me since go-karts. Big thanks to Art Wilmus with Rising Star Racing. He's also been a big factor in my career. And I've just got so many people from the time I was in core admitted to who've helped me out. So I can't thank all of them enough. They've all gotten me to where I am, and they've given me these opportunities. So without them, I wouldn't be here today.
Okay, that's fantastic. Congratulations on a great run over there. I think I don't know that anybody in the last number of years that I've been following Team USA has probably had that kind of a tough go in terms of going over and not being able to run really any dry racing. So much wet racing for you. I just wish you would have had one full day, or even one of the races would have been dry. You know what I mean? As opposed to having every session in the wet.
Yeah, I think it would have been Honestly, during this year, I wished I would have had a little more practice time in the wet.
Yeah.
Just so that I was a little more prepared. So I don't know if it was necessarily a bad thing that everything is in the wet, but it definitely would have been fun to get some dry racing in and been a little more comfortable.
If people want to follow Jackson Lee on social media, throw out the Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, whatever you're using. Give me the handle so people can follow you.
So we've got Jackson Lee 52, and that is for Instagram and Twitter. And then I'll have my Jackson Lee Racing Facebook page. And then I try to post highlight videos and different race clips on YouTube at Jackson Lee Racing. So go to there to keep up with how I'm doing.
Awesome, man. Well, listen, I look forward to hearing how you do in the test. You said you're going to do another test. Love to have you in the USF 2000 program next year. I think it'd be a lot of fun. But thank you for joining me here today. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you very much.
There he is, guys. Jackson Lee, tremendous young American driver, one of the 3 drivers selected to the Team USA scholarship program here in 2020. Simon Sykes was the other driver. He did not go over to the UK, but will instead run a couple of test sessions, I believe. I'll confirm that with Jeremy Shaw. Once those are done, we'll try to get Simon back on here as well. Simon was also running at St. Petersburg in the final weekend of the Road to Indy program, so wasn't able to go to the UK. But Jackson did a tremendous job, and it's good to have him on with us again. You can see, obviously, a very well-spoken young man for sure. I do want to thank everyone for joining us here on this Book It podcast. Do me a huge favor if you can. Please subscribe to the channel. Right below, if you press the thumbs up button, give me a like. I would appreciate it. Subscribe to the channel, hit the bell. That would be awesome. And as always, I will turn these the audio from these Facebook and rather YouTube shows, turn those into the podcast as well. Take the audio. It'll be on the Rob Howden podcast, which is currently on Podbean, but I'll make sure to get it up on iTunes, Spotify, and Google Play soon. That's going to cap things off here on what is a Wednesday night. More to come over on the eKarting News channel this evening. But again, big thank you to Jackson Lee joining us as we capped off our Team USA Scholarship Review. Thank you, folks. I appreciate it. Book it.